A man named Kaylin came to the old well at dusk. The village had begun to grow quiet. Women were lifting the last buckets of water onto their heads. Children were being called inside. The goats had stopped wandering. A soft orange light rested on the clay walls and the dust of the road. Kaylin stood near the well with both hands behind his back, staring into the dark circle of water as if it could answer him. He was a thoughtful man, though people often mistook thoughtfulness for peace. He had the kind of face that looked controlled in public. His voice was measured. His clothes were neat even when his mind was not. Men trusted him with practical matters. Women described him as steady. Younger boys watched him with the kind of respect they offer a man who seems to understand life. Still, Kaylin had come to the well that evening with bitterness in his chest. The old keeper of the well, Master Rami, was sitting nearby on a low wooden stool, slowly repairing the handle of a broken basket. He was a thin man with clear eyes and weathered hands. Nobody could say exactly how old he was. He had once been a carpenter, then a teacher, then simply someone people came to when life had become harder to carry alone. He did not look up when Kaylin arrived. He only said, "You are walking like a man trying to keep his heart from spilling." Kaylin gave a dry laugh. "Is it that obvious?" "To a person who has watched enough faces," the old man said. "Yes." Kaylin waited, then sat on an overturned bucket. For a little while, neither of them spoke. The well rope creaked once in the evening wind. Then Kaylin said, "Why do people only come back when they need something?" Master Rami kept working on the basket handle. "That is a heavy question to bring to a well. It has been sitting in me for a long time." "Then let it sit in the air too," the old man said. "Say the whole thing." Kaylin looked out toward the road. "I have watched people come near me when they need advice, money, support, comfort, introductions, protection, direction. They come when they are confused. They come when they are cornered. They come when they are hurting. Then, when life becomes easier for them, they disappear again. I have also watched people avoid others for strange reasons. Someone walks into a room with confidence, freedom, skill, ease, and suddenly, another person becomes cold toward him. No insult happened. Nothing was done. Still, the dislike is there. I have seen people protect pride even when pride is destroying their peace. I have seen men who want closeness avoid it. I have seen women who want love speak with sharpness instead of honesty. I have seen old friends return warmly after long silence, and underneath the warmth there is need. Always need. I want to understand what moves people. I am tired of judging too quickly, and I am tired of being hurt in the same old ways." The old man nodded. "At last," he said softly, "you are asking the right question. Most people ask, who is good and who is bad? That question is too small. The deeper question is, what is moving them?" Master Rami set the basket down and looked fully at Kaylin for the first time. "Human beings," he said, "are often pulled by hunger and guarded by armor." Kaylin stayed quiet. The old man touched his own chest lightly. "Hunger is need. Armor is ego." The evening seemed to grow even stiller around them. "You speak as if those two explain everything," Kaylin said. "They do not explain everything," said Master Rami, "though they explain more than most people are willing to admit." He leaned back slightly and spoke as if beginning an old tale. "When a child is hungry, he cries openly. When a grown man is hungry, he may wear dignity over the hunger until he can barely breathe. Need does not disappear with age. It only becomes more complicated. A child needs milk. A grown soul needs relief, recognition, affection, belonging, safety, admiration, usefulness, witness, and sometimes even the feeling that another person can help hold together what is falling apart inside. So people move toward those who feed something in them. Master Rami pointed toward the well. Do the thirsty come here because they love the stones? They come because the well answers something real. Kaylin nodded slowly. So people approach for what they can receive. Often, yes, comfort, advice, money, access, calm, shelter, approval, a listening ear, the feeling of mattering. Even love itself can begin where hunger meets provision. Kaylin's mouth tightened. That sounds cold. It can be cold, said the old man. It can also be ordinary. A hungry person moves toward bread. A lonely person moves toward warmth. A confused person moves toward clarity. Need is not shameful. It becomes dangerous when a person uses others without reverence. It becomes painful when all relationship is reduced to appetite. The old man reached for the rope beside the well and ran it through his hand. Need is one force. Ego is the other. Need says, move closer, ask, reach, return, confess, receive. Ego says, protect yourself, protect your image, protect your place, protect your pride, protect your dignity from humiliation. He looked at Kaylin. And most human relationships are shaped by the struggle between those two. Kaylin sat very still. The words did not feel like theory. They felt like something he had already known in silence and was hearing properly for the first time. Master Rami continued. Ego is armor. Armor is useful in battle. It stops arrows. It keeps sharp things from entering easily. Though a man who never removes his armor cannot embrace anyone well. He cannot sleep deeply. He cannot wash properly. He cannot even feel the wind honestly against his skin. That is what many people do with pride. They wear protection long after the battle has ended. Kaylin lowered his eyes. I know people like that. The old man smiled faintly. Yes. And if you stay long enough with this question, you will discover that you are one of them too. Kaylin did not answer. Master Rami picked up a small pebble and dropped it into the well. They listened to it hit the water below. Now let me tell you a story, he said. There were two merchants in a town by the river. One sold cloth, the other sold mirrors. The cloth merchant was loved by the town because he covered people's nakedness. The mirror merchant was avoided by many because he revealed what cloth could hide. A man could come to the cloth seller feeling ugly and leave wrapped in beauty. He could come to the mirror seller hoping to admire himself and leave troubled by what he saw. One day the cloth merchant began to resent the mirror merchant. He said to others, "That man is proud. He makes people uncomfortable. He thinks too highly of himself." Yet the truth was simpler. The mirror seller had done nothing except stand there reflecting faces. The cloth merchant hated him because the mirror did not flatter him. Many people hate mirrors and call the mirror arrogant. Kaylin looked up. The old man met his eyes. Sometimes a person enters your life carrying a quality you secretly hunger for. Ease, freedom, confidence, openness, skill, courage, beauty, peace. The person has not insulted you, though your spirit feels wounded in their presence. Why? Because they reveal the distance between who you are and who you wish you were. He tapped the side of the well. That distance is painful. Some people turn pain into admiration. They say, "There is something here I want to learn from." Others turn pain into resentment. They say, "This person is too much. I do not like him." The first path leads to growth. The second leads to hidden bitterness. Kaylin thought of people immediately. Men he had seen become cold in the presence of someone freer than they were. Women whose voices changed around those they envied. Even himself at times, feeling resistance towards someone whose openness made his own guardedness look heavy. So comparison can become shame, Kaylin said quietly, to yes. And shame can become dislike. Yes. And dislike may have nothing to do with what the other person actually did. The old man nodded once. There is pain in the presence of another person's freedom when your own soul is still bound. They sat in silence for a while. A woman passed with water balanced on her head and greeted the old man. He greeted her back with a lift of the hand. Then Kaylin spoke again. If people approach because of need, why do they also avoid? Master Rami smiled. Because hunger is only half the truth. Remember the armor. He stood slowly and walked a few steps toward the path. Kaylin followed him with his eyes. Look at the road, said the old man. If a man sees food at the end of the road and there is no danger, he walks gladly. Though if he believes the road contains humiliation, exposure, or rejection, he hesitates. Hunger still pulls him forward. Fear holds him back. He turned. This is why some people want closeness and still avoid it. They want comfort, though they fear needing it. They want love, though they fear being seen asking for it. They want recognition, though they fear being refused. They want to be chosen, though they fear learning they were not. So they hover near the bridge and do not cross. Kaylin felt those words land somewhere deep. He thought of a friend who always laughed through serious moments and disappeared whenever conversation approached the heart. He thought of a cousin who longed for respect and still pushed away anyone who tried to know him deeply. He thought of a woman he once loved who wanted tenderness, though spoke like a person expecting betrayal before it came. Warmly when they need something, Kaylin asked. The old man gave a soft sigh. Because need changes the weather inside a person. He pointed toward the hills in the distance. There are roads a man will never walk in clear weather. Let rain come. Let night fall. Let cold enter his bones. Suddenly the same road becomes possible. Kaylin watched the old man's face. When life is manageable, Master Rami said, ego can still afford its pride. It can say, stay away, do not look needy, do not bend first, do not expose yourself, do not risk looking small. Then suffering deepens, money tightens, loneliness grows, confusion rises, grief enters, fear becomes heavier than image. And now the soul says, go, ask, return, call, confess. She's knock on the door. That is why some people only come back when they need something. Their need becomes stronger than their pride. He paused. Return is often need wearing the face of affection. Kaylin gave a bitter laugh. That is exactly how it feels. The old man raised a finger. Do not rush. Sometimes the affection is real. The need simply gave it courage. Kaylin's face softened slightly. That is harder to accept. It is also truer. The old man sat again on his stool. Many people do care. They are simply not free. Pride tightens them. Shame silences them. Fear makes them awkward. Some do not know how to come empty-handed. To say, I missed you feels too exposed. To say, I was thinking about you feels too tender. So they wait until practical need gives them a reason to approach. Kaylin stood quiet for a long time after that. Then he said, and what about honest connection? Master Rami smiled sadly. Honest connection is walking into light without cover. He let the image stay in the air. To know and be known honestly, a person must remove some armor. He must risk being seen unfinished. He must risk saying, I do not know. I was wrong. I miss you. I need help. I care more than I wanted to admit. Those are costly sentences for a proud heart. The old man took the repaired basket in his hands again and tested the handle gently. People often say they want love, friendship, closeness, peace. Many do, though they also want safety from shame. They want recognition without vulnerability. They want acceptance without exposure. They want intimacy without surrender. They want to be seen while still hiding. He looked up. That is why human relations are so full of contradiction. Kaylin let out a slow breath. It felt as though some tightly knotted thing in him was beginning to loosen, though the loosening hurt. Master Rami studied him for a moment. You have been listening to others. Now listen inward too. Kaylin said nothing. The old man continued. Who do you approach? Kaylin lowered his eyes. I approach people who make me feel steadier, people who can help me think, people who calm me. And who do you avoid? Kaylin swallowed. People who make me feel exposed. Who do you resent? The question took longer. Finally, Kaylin answered, those who carry a freedom I do not have. The old man nodded with quiet satisfaction. And when have you returned only because you needed something? Kaylin looked away toward the fading sky. There were faces now, names, messages he had sent after long silence, friendly words that arrived with need hidden underneath them. Times he had called someone he had not honored properly because some pressure in his life had become too heavy to carry alone. He felt a low shame rise in him. Master Rami saw it. Good, he said softly. Kaylin looked back, startled. Good? Yes. Shame is painful when it first wakes, though sometimes it is simply the soul noticing itself honestly. The old man leaned forward. The reason people wound one another in these ways is not always cruelty. Sometimes it is immaturity. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is unexamined hunger. Sometimes it is pride trying to protect a fragile self. Sometimes it is the ache of wanting to matter mixed with the fear of being seen needy. We are more tangled than we like to admit. The first stars were beginning to show. The old man continued in a softer tone now, as if speaking closer to the center of the matter. Human beings want two things that often pull against each other. They want to preserve themselves, and they want to be nourished by what lies beyond themselves. They want dignity, and they want dependence. They want autonomy, and they want embrace. They want to be enough on their own, and they also want someone to say, "You matter here." This is why one person can long for closeness and still run from it. This is why one person can admire another and still become cold toward him. This is why one person can return warmly after long silence and yet be carrying need more than devotion. Kaylin whispered, "So much of life is hidden struggle." "Yes," said the old man, "and much of wisdom is learning to see the struggle without becoming cynical." That word stayed with Kaylin. Cynical. It would have been easier to leave the well that night believing one hard sentence about the world. People are selfish. People use others. Nobody is real. Such sentences have a bitter strength to them. They save a person from the harder work of discernment. The old man seemed to read his thoughts. "Do not become naive," he said, "though do not become stone either." He lifted the basket and placed it beside the wall. "You must learn to tell the difference between connection and convenience." "And how do I do that?" Kaylin asked. "Watch what remains when need is absent." The answer came so simply that Kaylin almost missed its weight. The old man continued, "Who asks after your soul when there is nothing to gain? Who stays present when your usefulness is low? Who can rejoice in your freedom without shrinking? Who can be honest with you without trying to control you? Who can receive your no without turning cold? Who approaches with reverence, not only appetite? Kaylin listened carefully. And when people come only from need, he asked. Sometimes you help, sometimes you refuse, sometimes you name the pattern kindly, sometimes you create distance. Wisdom does not always look like open gates. A well that gives water freely still has walls around it. Kaylin nodded slowly. A well that gives water freely still has walls around it. The old man watched him take it in. Boundaries are not bitterness, he said. They are the shape that lets love remain clean. The night had settled now, though the air still held some warmth. Kaylin sat back down on the overturned bucket, quieter than before. After a long silence, he asked, "And what should I do with the people who feel like threats to me?" Master Rami smiled again. "First ask whether they are truly threats or mirrors." Kaylin thought about that. "A real threat seeks to diminish you," the old man said. "A mirror reveals you. Those are different wounds." He lifted one hand toward Kaylin's face as if holding an invisible object between them. When another person's strength makes you smaller in your own eyes, pause. Ask, what hunger is this touching in me? What fear is being exposed? What part of me wants what this person carries? If you do not ask those questions, envy will dress itself as judgment. The old man's voice stayed gentle. Do not turn mirrors into enemies. Something moved through Kaylin at those words. They felt older than the well, older than the village, older even than his private resentments. He thought of one man in particular, a friend from years ago who had always carried himself with a freedom Kaylin found irritating. He had called the man unserious, too soft, too open. The truth was that the man moved through the world without the heavy armor Kaylin called maturity. Kaylin had judged what he quietly envied. Master Rami saw recognition in his face. There is a freedom some people carry, the old man said, that pains those who are still defending themselves every minute. To the armored man, the open chest looks foolish, though often it is courage. Kaylin lowered his head. For the first time that evening, he laughed with real humility. I have spent years thinking my armor was wisdom, a common mistake. And what do I do now? The old man leaned back, eyes half on the night sky. Begin with smaller truths, such as, when you need help, ask. When you do not understand, say so. When someone's strength unsettles you, examine the wound before blaming the person. When people return in need, see clearly and choose clearly. When you recognize convenience, do not call it intimacy. When you recognize real care, honor it. When you set boundaries, do not let your heart become hard. When your pride says, stay hidden, ask whether hiding is preserving you or starving you. The crickets had begun singing now in the grass beyond the well. Kaylin sat in the gathering darkness, feeling something strange move through him. Not relief exactly, something better. Clarity. He looked into the well once more. Its water held the first stars in broken silver shapes. Master, he said at last, is everyone then just moving between hunger and armor? The old man smiled into the night. For most of their lives, yes. Though wisdom begins when a person notices the armor, honors the hunger, and learns which one should speak in each moment. Kaylin rose slowly. The bitterness he had carried to the well was still there in traces, though it was no longer a blind bitterness. It had begun turning into understanding. As he prepared to leave, the old man said one final thing. "Kaylin." He turned. "You asked why people only come back when they need something. Sometimes the answer is selfishness. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is shame. Sometimes it is human weakness dressed in polite words. Sometimes it is affection that lacked courage until pain pushed it forward. Learn to see the difference. And do not become the kind of man who waits until suffering forces honesty out of him." Kaylin stood still. The old man's voice dropped lower. "There is a cleaner way to live. You can ask before desperation. You can love without disguising every need. You can recognize another person's freedom without turning it into a wound against yourself. You can keep your boundaries and still keep your mercy. You can stop building identity around appearing untouched. That is how a human being becomes both wiser and softer." Kaylin bowed his head slightly, then turned and walked home through the quiet village. On the way, he passed several houses with lamps burning behind thin curtains. In one house, someone was laughing. In another, a baby was crying. In another, two voices were rising in argument, then fading again. Everywhere, he thought, people were living inside the same unseen struggle. Hunger and armor, need and ego, wanting closeness, fearing exposure, wanting recognition, protecting dignity, returning late, avoiding tenderness, calling hunger by other names. For the first time, he did not feel above them. He did not feel crushed by them either. He felt among them. And that, perhaps, was the beginning of wisdom. Years later, people would say that Kaylin had become a gentler man. He listened more carefully. He asked sooner. He judged slower. He gave with clearer boundaries. He stopped chasing every return as proof of love. He stopped despising every need as proof of falsehood. He learned to recognize when someone came for connection and when someone came for relief. Most of all, he learned this: a person can remain dignified while being seen unfinished. That truth changed the way he stood in the world. And whenever a younger man came to him, bitter over people who only returned when they needed something, Kaylin would sometimes take him to the old well at dusk and say, "Human beings are often pulled by hunger and guarded by armor. If you understand that, you will suffer less foolishly. And if you understand it in yourself, you may finally begin to love without losing sight." Kaylin learned that true wisdom comes from understanding hunger and ego, both in ourselves and others. It's not about being perfect, but being real. Did this story resonate with you? Drop a comment, like, and share. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.